Okay, so I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of freaking the heck out right now. This has been happening for the past 3 days and I don't know how to deal with it anymore. Some background. I am from Malaysia, and I live alone in a budget apartment. Our country's been on full lockdown for over 2 weeks now, and my basic life schedule is completely messed up. I'm usually up all night till the morning of the next day, sleeping during the afternoons to the late evening. Rinse and repeat. This was largely okay for me. Being up all night by myself is invigorating since it's so peaceful and calm. The air is cooler and the world is quiet. Most of the times I just fool around on the internet, reading and watching videos after getting some work done. However, as I mentioned, starting 3 days ago, I've been getting delivery riders coming to my door at the dead of the night, usually around 3 a.m. The first time it happened, I was startled, sure. I mean, I live alone, it's 3 a.m. and getting knocks on your door at that time can only mean bad news. I quickly opened my door, only to see a guy dressed in a polo shirt, with a cap holding a box of pizza. Relaxing a bit, I told the guy, "Wrong house, bro," and tried to shut the door to get back to my business. But he stopped me with a, "Please, boss, please." I turned back around. The guy tried to push the pizza box towards me. "Please, sir, take it, it's your order." I shook my head firmly and said, "No, I didn't order anything. You've got the wrong house, man." But he didn't seem to be listening. He kept repeating, "Please, boss, take it, your order," while pushing the box to me. At this point, I kind of figured maybe this guy doesn't understand what I'm saying, or maybe he was disabled in some way. So I took the box thinking maybe the delivery address would be on it or something. The first thing I noticed was that it wasn't the usual chain store brand like a Domino's or a Pizza Hut. The logo was just Gab, G-A-B, in block letters, which isn't a brand that I know of. There was no delivery address tacked onto the box or anything, so I tried asking for a receipt from the guy. But he just shook his head and said, No receipt," while backing away, ready to leave. I tried to stop him to hand him back the box, but he just wouldn't have it. He left hurriedly, and I ended up with a free box of mystery pizza. Now, I probably should be stoked cause hey, it's free pizza. But it is at 3 a.m. It's from an unknown place from a brand that I've never heard of. And it was delivered by one of the shadiest dudes that I'd ever met in my life. So, I did what any reasonable person should do, and I left it outside of my door, thinking that I'll just throw it out to my trash in the morning. My sister always told me to never pick up strange things from outside. It's the easiest way to avoid bringing any bad luck or trouble, she had said. After that, I got back on my computer, feeling just a tad weirded out but not really thinking too much of it. Eventually, the sun rose and I went outside to take out my trash. When I got outside though, the pizza box wasn't there anymore. It was a little strange, but I just shrugged it off as maybe the janitor or someone had thrown it out for me. I proceeded with my day as usual, and almost completely forgot about the whole thing. Until the knocking came again. I looked at the time. 2:45 a.m. What in the world? I got up and opened the door. A different guy in the same uniform from yesterday stood in front of me, holding yet another box of pizza. "Sir, your order, please, take it." I shook my head no. No order, it's not mine, wrong house, man," I told him. This time I managed to just shut the door behind me before he could stop me. I stood by for a few more minutes, watching the guy out of my peephole. At first, he just stared blankly at the door. After it became apparent that I wasn't coming back out, the guy just put the box down in front of my door and walked away. Satisfied, I went back to my desk and sat back down, grumbling to myself about how bizarre and annoying it is to have this happen twice. And did some troll find my address and was pranking me? But the guy didn't ask for payment or anything. Is it just to mess with me? Who would do that, and why me? Attempts to look up the pizza place returned no result, though it is also possible that it is a roadside business with no online presence. While all these thoughts are swirling in my mind, a realization hits me and I feel my heart stop cold. It's lockdown right now. No restaurant can operate past 8 p.m. How could anyone be delivering food at this hour? Also, riders are not supposed to walk up to the apartment themselves. They are supposed to leave the food at the guardhouse for pickup. So then who the heck was outside of my door? A chill shot down my spine. Internally freaking out, I quickly crawled to my bed, trying to calm my worrying brain. It's probably nothing. I didn't take the pizza in and I didn't eat it either. If it happens again, I'll just call security and then call the cops. It's gonna be okay. This is real life, real life. I repeated silently in my heart, with my eyes squeezed shut, until I finally drifted off to sleep. Day 3, 9 p.m. I wake up and go through my routine, nervously keeping an eye on the time. I tried my best to get my work for the day done, but it was impossible to focus. I kept waiting anxiously for the knocking to come. The clock ticked away. I stared at my computer, desperate for distraction. 2:25 a.m. 3 bangs on the door. "Boss, your order, boss, please, take it. Your order, boss." I froze in my seat for a solid 5 minutes, staring at the door. More banging. "Boss, your order, boss." I continued to wait without making a sound until the knocking stopped. I can't say for sure how long it went on. Maybe 10 minutes or so. I kept waiting. The silence stretches on. It's an abrupt change from the incessant knocking just a few minutes prior. I glanced at the clock on my computer. 2:55 a.m. It's been 30 minutes since this first knock. Gathering all of my courage, I stepped quietly towards the door and peeped out of the people, hoping that it's all just a big misunderstanding. It's all just a simple mistake and whoever was outside the door has left like a normal person. But to my absolute horror, the guy was still there, standing straight and staring blankly at my door, holding the pizza box. I gape in shock. All of a sudden, as if sensing I was there, the guy snapped his head up and stares straight back at me through the peephole. I got so startled that I almost fell backwards. He has no eyes. This guy or thing has no freaking eyes. It's just 2 gaping eye sockets where the eyeball should be. I stare on, frozen in shock. Slowly, his lips started to quirk upwards, curving into a smile so wide that it looks downright unnatural. And then, in a cheery voice bordering excitement, he said, "Sa tahu, you ada katsana." This time, I fell back with a loud thud and a yell. I scrambled away from the door as fast as I could, backing into the corner of the room while keeping an eye on the door. This is when the banging started. "Boss, your order, boss, your order, boss." And then 4 more bangs. The thing outside kept repeating cheerily in between the non-stop banging. To say that I was going to crap my pants was a major understatement. I was ready to die on the spot, quite frankly, and honestly saw no other way out of this at that moment. I kept my eyes closed, huddled in the corner of the room just thinking, this is it. I'm gonna die here. This is it. Suddenly, a loud, angry yell came from next door. "Who the heck's making all that noise?" I hear thudding footsteps and the sound of my neighbor's door opening. There's a pause, and then it's back to silence. There's no more banging, no more cheery voice repeating, "Your order, boss, your order." I hear my neighbor's door shut and footsteps retreating. Shakily, I sit up and walk to my bed. I curled up under the cover with my eyes shut tight, but sleep didn't come. My entire body was on alert, dreading when that thing would come back knocking, calling me in that cheery voice. Racked with fear and anxiety the entire night, I was still absolutely exhausted when the first rays of sunlight peeked into the room through the window blinds. I checked the time, 6:30 a.m. I crawled out of bed, got dressed, and walked down to security. I explained what had happened these past 3 nights to the guard, leaving out the fact that what I saw could be inhuman. I suppose I was still clinging to some hope that it was a mistake, that my imagination had gotten the better of me, and his empty eye sockets were just a slight trick of the light. However, after listening to my explanation, the guard just gave me a look of confusion and doubt. He tells me that nobody has been allowed up to the complex, as per the rules, and even offered to show me the security footage when he saw how scared I looked. When the footage rolled, I could feel the blood draining from my face. It was just as the guard had said. No one was allowed into the complex at the time of the incident. As a matter of fact, no one was shown outside my door either. There was nothing that I could say. I just thanked the guard and headed back into my room. Could I be hallucinating? That could be it. Maybe this schedule is messing up my brain more than I can take it. I thought to myself as I trudged upstairs. As I was about to open the door to my room, however, the next door neighbor steps outside. He shoots me a glare and says, "Hey man, what the heck was making all that noise at your door yesterday? And don't you have any manners? Don't you know 3 a.m. is when people freaking sleep? If it happens again, I'm gonna report you." Before slamming his door shut. He heard it too. He actually heard it. It's real. It's freaking real. Now I'm in my room, typing this out, looking at the clock. It's 1:30 a.m. right now. It'll come soon. I don't know what to do. Hey, so something happened. After last week, I decided to pay a visit to my neighbor. I wanted to talk to him about the knocking thing since things seemed to have settled down. Also to thank him for what I think is him helping me out with the whole ordeal. Anyways, that's how I found myself outside his door at 10 a.m., 5 days after the knocking had stopped, with a small box of mangoes in hand. I wanted to clear off any bad blood between us. I knocked on the door a couple of times and then waited. No response. I knocked again, harder this time. "Excuse me, hello." Still nothing. At this point, I just assumed he was still asleep. Like I said, this schedule has really been messing with us all. I got ready to leave, thinking that I'll just come back in the evening or something. Before I could step away, though, a loud scream came from inside his room. "Go away! Go away! Leave me alone!" Of course, I was startled. He sounded really upset, so I just yelled back, "Sorry," and scurried back to my room. I guess I caught him at a bad time. Maybe it was really rude of me to go over so early, or maybe he knew it was me and was still mad about what had happened before. Regardless, it was quite clear to me that I probably shouldn't bother him for a while. I could try again next week or something. With that mindset, I just went about my business as usual for the next few days. I've been trying to keep my schedule more normalized, up in the day and sleeping at night, just in case something came bothering me again. Like the wise man in the comments had said, I can't know if there's a ghost or demons trying to get me if I'm asleep. Plus, if anything did happen in the day, I know other people would be around to help. Everything was normal. Good even. But yesterday, something happened. I woke up in the morning as usual, but not to my alarm. There were loud sirens coming from the window and what sounded like people outside of my door. Thinking there was a fire or something similar, I quickly jumped out of bed, put on my mask and headed out the door, The first thing to hit me was the waft of unbearable stench. It smelled like something that had been rotting for days. It was so pungent that it still got me reeling back even with my mask on. The second thing was my neighbor. I haven't mentioned this before because I didn't think it was relevant, but he was a fit man in his early 30s. Very much the kind of guy who works out on the irregular and watches what he eats. But right then, as he was being carted off on a stretcher by the paramedics, he looked more corpse than human. Now I know why people use the phrase skin and bones. He was literally just that. Barely a person at all. His limbs looked like fragile sticks, with his head lolled to one side facing me. I could see that his eyeballs were sunken deep into his sockets, reminding me of what I saw at my door just last week. "What's going on?" I asked the policeman by my door. He glanced at me and told me to go back inside. The rest of the onlookers were also shooed back into their own homes. There was nothing else I could do. I went back inside and tried to calm down and go about my day as usual, but I just couldn't get the image of my neighbor, what was essentially just his bones on the stretcher, out of my mind. What the heck had happened? Is he dead? That's all I thought about for the rest of the day. When night came, I couldn't even sleep. The whole thing's got me paranoid again and my mind was in overdrive. I can't help but think that what happened to my neighbor had something to do with me. Or more precisely, the thing. I mean, it makes sense, doesn't it? The thing stopped bothering me the day after my neighbor had yelled and went outside. Did that thing make him like that? Is it my fault? I tossed and turned all night, feeling worse and worse by the minute. In the end, I couldn't even feel safe lying down, so I sat up and just stared at the door again. It's like I was back to last week, full of dread and anxiety. The clock kept ticking and I kept watching, just squirming and staring, waiting and waiting until daybreak. At 7 a.m. when it got bright enough, I went down to the security guard again, hoping that he might know what had happened. I'm not sure if it was good luck that he did know, but it turns out my neighbor had been starving himself for almost 5 days inside of his house. It was just pure luck that the cops had managed to get to him in time. His brother had asked for a checkup since he hadn't been answering his phone and hadn't been showing up for work. Why was he doing this to himself? No one knows but him. It wasn't like there wasn't any food in his house. There was something set on the table when the cops went inside to check. Presumably the last thing he ate. But apparently it was so rotted they couldn't tell what it was. That was what the messed up smell was. Now, here comes the part that brings me here today. The guard told me he found something strange that he wanted to show me in motion for me to come into his office. He still remembered me from when I had asked him about the delivery men coming in. I followed him and he showed me the security footage of the floor from last week. The first video was from last Monday the 21st, 3 a.m. I remember this was the second day of me not getting any locks on my door. In the bizarre video, my neighbor had flung his door open, seemingly quite upset. However, after he just stood by the doorframe, it looked as if he was talking to somebody in front of him, despite there being nobody. He was gesturing angrily, shaking his head and hands like he was saying no. It was reminiscent of the Elisa Lam security footage, just downright unsettling. After a few minutes of that, he seemed to stop abruptly, picking up something from the bottom of the screen, and then he turned around back into his house and shut the door behind him. I paled. The footage over the next 2 nights just showed a similar footage of my neighbor angrily flinging open his door, looking around and going back inside, always at or close to 3 a.m. On the 4th day, though, I saw myself with the box of mangoes awaiting outside of his door. That was the day that he had screamed at me to go away. My worst fear was being confirmed right before my eyes. It got him instead of me. I just know. You guys might think it's just me overthinking, but how else would you explain it? It could have been me on that frickin' stretcher. It could have been me starving in my own house. The only reason the thing left me alone was because it got someone else. After seeing that, I just rushed back to my room as quickly as I could. I've got to leave this place. I'm not sticking around until whatever the heck it was comes back to get me. I packed up my things now. I'm moving back into my parents' house tomorrow. I can't deal with this. I don't want to deal with it anymore. It's currently 12:52 a.m. I'm still looking at the door.